Well, hi, I'm Jack with Roadstercycle.com, and today I'm going to show you how to hook up your Shindengen Mosfet regulator, the FH012AA, and I'll show you how to do some splicing and crimping and soldering, just so we make this thing bulletproof. We want this thing to be an upgrade, not a downgrade, so I'm going to give you some points and tips on soldering, and let's get to it. Okay, I stripped this back about a ½ inch. That's about what you'll need on your stator wires so that this will be able to be folded over to be able to fit better inside of your terminal that goes inside the connector, the gray connector of your MOSFET. It just needs to be bigger because the terminal itself is good for a 10 gauge wire, and usually your wire coming out of your stator is maybe a 14 or a 16 gauge, pretty small. So you need to fold it over so it fits real well inside there. So now we have the end crimped on, the terminal end crimped on with the doubled over stator wire. Okay, now we're going to solder it, and you want to make sure you get it hot enough. I always hold my soldering iron here, just touch it just to make sure it's hot. But what I want to do is I want to make sure the whole thing gets hot. So where I want to start soldering is on the end. See how the solder flowed inside there? And I do it on this side too, and get it flowing in there so it's a nice flow. Smoke a little, okay? It should be silver when you get done, or shiny when you get done. If it's not, if it's dull looking, you didn't get it hot enough, you got a cold solder joint. You don't want a cold solder joint. And I also don't crimp this end until after everything cools down. Because if you crimp this end beforehand, when you heat it up, it's just going to melt the plastic away. So wait till you get it all together, let this cool down, then crimp it. Okay, now after it cooled down, I crimp my the wire plastic coating. I crimped it. So now that's pretty solid. You should have a great solid joint here. Should be fine. Your rubber boots on it beforehand, so because once you put it on, you won't get it on. So there you go. Now the red battery and ground cable are 10 gauge, so you only need to go about a 1/4 inch of insulation back to be stripped, because it'll fit in the connector really well. And again, make sure you have your blue grommet on it, the weather grommet, before you put the terminal end on and solder it, because you'll hate yourself in the morning or when you're done that you didn't put it on, and you'll have to cut off the end and put it on and start over again. It's a good idea, after you crimp your end on, pull it. Make sure it doesn't come off. If it's crimped and tight like that, that's great. I mean, it's not coming off. And again, I did not crimp this end until after I solder it. So now I'm going to solder it up. Hold your heat gun on the metal part here so that it heats up the whole thing. And again, like I just touch it to make sure we got some heat going. I want it to go in the end here. There we go. See how it flows in there? Real nice. It's flowing in. I'll do the other side so it gets underneath there. Okay, nice and hot. It's real shiny silver, which means it's a good solder joint. If it was dull, it would be a cold solder joint. So we'll let that cool down. Once it cools down, then we'll crimp our ends. Okay, now make sure that your plastic is pulled out a little bit. The yellow plastic in there, and then what I do is I take and just lick my fingers a little bit to get this wet on this side and push it in like so. Okay, and mine went right in. If yours doesn't go in, because a lot of people, you know, they say that it's hard to get the blue rubber into the deal with the big thick wire. Take a Q-tip is what I do, and I push it in around there so it's, you know, it won't cut it or hurt it or anything. So I use a Q-tip. So that's how it works. And then after you get both of them in there, you take and push this down, and that locks your terminal so they can't come out. So that's it. The yellow piece goes in the middle. Will go in there and just seal, and your black wire will go in the other one, which is your ground, and you'll be ready to go. Of course, this is cut off because it's just a simulation, but we all know that, right? Okay, so there you go. I figure while we're at it and we're looking at this connector, I think I'll show you how to remove your pin and in case you made a mistake or whatever. Pull that up. See how I did that? Put it in here. Pop it up a little bit, okay? In fact, actually you can take it right out. It'll get out of your way easier if you just take it out. Okay? So we'll set that down. Then right here, underneath the silver, there's a little tab. If you take and pull it down, like so, it'll come right out in your hand. So, again, let's put it back together. Put this back in like this. Clicks right in. That little lube, like, you know, when you lick your fingers or whatever, helps so much on the little blue seal to get it in there. So, there you have it. So again, about a 1/4 inch insulation is cut back, our heat shrink, and our battery cable end. So make sure you put the heat shrink on first, because you're really going to be unhappy if you don't after you get your end on here. So put your end on. Okay. With my crimp, I do it twice, so I'm going to do it up close, right here, and then I'm going to go right next to it. So that's pretty good. It's not going anywhere. Okay? But even though I know it's not going anywhere and it's really good, I don't trust it. So I always solder. So let's solder it on there to make sure it's bulletproof. If you don't solder, you have a good chance of having resistance due to corrosion happening in there. So let's solder it, have it be a good strong joint. I'll just hit it there just to get things moving along a little better. If you put a little solder between the soldering gun and the joint, it'll actually heat up faster. As you see, it just heated up, got real shiny, and that's what we want. Okay, so that's nice and shiny, which means I got a really good solder joint. That is bulletproof, and that's what we're going for with this stuff. Okay, so we'll let it cool down. Once it cools down, we'll put the heat shrink back on it, and make sure you have your heat shrink away from where you're soldering, because as you start soldering, it's going to heat up the wire, and when it heats up the wire, it'll take and start shrinking your heat shrink. Well, I put the insulation over. I have a nice handy dandy heat gun, just because I do a lot of this stuff. But you don't have to use a heat gun. You can use a match, you can use a Bic lighter, you can use one of those things you light the charcoal with on your grills. So, and there you go. Now that's nice. It's all sealed.